Pat Harrigan, a member of the House Armed Services Committee and a four-country caucus. Congressman, good to talk with you. Thanks very much for weighing in here. Your reaction to Anita Dunn's behind closed doors testimony.
Well, good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me on. Look, I don't think it was believable, and I don't think the American people think it was believable either. You go back to President Biden's absolutely disastrous debate against President Trump, and the American people clearly understood he was not there. He was not present. He was not cogent. He was not capable of being the commander-in-chief. And so I think her testimony yesterday was absolutely beyond the pale, and I think the American people see that.
Yeah, it's interesting because after the Robert Hur report, a number of things happened. Not only did he blow off the Super Bowl interview, but they also pulled the prostate cancer diagnosis off the shelf. Obviously, they knew that he had prostate cancer, but nobody was saying anything until the Hur report, I guess, to distract from the Hur report.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think that from the tail end of the Biden administration, the only thing that we saw was obfuscation. That's all they were trying to do, was simply pile event upon event to distract the American people from what was really going on. And I think we've got to understand that we cannot allow this to happen again. We need full transparency. We need full accountability. And that's exactly what Congress is doing right now, trying to achieve for the American people.
Well, I mean, what's the impact on the American people? You had a commander-in-chief in the White House for 4 years. We don't know how long he was actually at the wheel and how long it was that the autopen was doing it. And his aides were actually making policy decisions. Policy decisions were made by aides and the autopen. How were the American people impacted by the mental decline that nobody wanted to tell us about?
Those are all great questions, Maria, and that's exactly what we want the American people to fully understand. We have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I think that broadly, the American people elected President Trump because they were tired of deep state bureaucracy actually having greater power than the people that they elected to represent them in Washington, D.C. We have got to end this the staff-run executive and legislative branch. I think the American people are tired of that.
Meanwhile, the Armed Services Committee in the House advancing its National Defense Authorization Act for the 2026 fiscal year. That includes countering China, Russia, Iran, North Korea with advanced capabilities, investing in next-generation technology. Congressman, I know you successfully secured 17 out of 18 of your initiatives in this act. What do you want to see happen in terms of the armaments needed to actually push back on these adversaries?
Well, there's no question as we array our nation's capabilities against our adversaries' threats that we have the emerging threat of incredibly capable, highly capable technologies that do not cost our adversaries a lot of money. Yet we have capabilities that cost us an absolute metric ton of money. And although these capabilities are incredible, we have to get better at the low-cost, highly distributable capabilities like small first-person view drones. One of our initiatives of those 17 that we got across the finish line was an amendment called Sky Foundry, which is this country's initiative to make the first million first-person view drones that we've ever made in this country with a supply chain completely decoupled from our greatest adversary, China. That is something we absolutely have to do to keep pace with our adversaries and the lessons that we're learning on the battlefields from the Middle East to Ukraine.
Well, look, China is undermining the United States at every turn. As you know, yesterday we broke the story first of Senator Tom Cotton's letter to the board of Intel. And after we broke the story and talked about it all morning yesterday, President Trump also weighed in. He demanded that the CEO of Intel, Lip-Bu Tan, resign, citing concerns over his ties to the Chinese military. The president wrote on Truth Social, the CEO of Intel is highly conflicted and must resign immediately. There is no other solution to this problem. Of course, the problem is what we reported yesterday, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton's letter to the board, pressing the board about the CEO amid his investments in Chinese technology companies. Intel responded, saying Intel and Mr. Tan are deeply committed to the national security of the United States and the integrity of our role in the U.S. defense ecosystem. The board writes, we appreciate Senator Cotton's focus on these shared priorities. We look forward to addressing these matters with the senator. Your thoughts on this? You know, Mr. Tan was the former CEO of Cadence Design Systems, and when he was the CEO of Cadence Design, this company makes electronic design automation technology. It was a key enabler of advanced chip design, and the company pled guilty to illegally selling its products to the Chinese military university and transferring its technology to an associated Chinese semiconductor company without obtaining licenses, according to the letter from Tom Cotton. Your reaction?
I can't believe that the board of Intel actually thought that putting Mr. Tan at the helm of Intel was a good idea. You've got to understand that Cadence has 77 different portfolio companies that are fully enmeshed within China and the Chinese Communist Party. Somewhere between a half a dozen and a dozen of these were actually banned entities on the U.S. entity list. And so I don't know why we thought that giving Intel the largest taxpayer handout from the CHIPS Act was a good idea with having this guy at the helm. There's just at some point he's just too conflicted out to act in the best interest of the United States of America, because not only is Intel and what we're trying to do with semiconductor manufacturing in the United States, not only is that important to our market economy, it is absolutely critical to our nation's defense. This man is conflicted out. He cannot serve as the chief executive officer of Intel.
Well, you're right. Intel was awarded nearly $8 billion from the CHIPS and Science Act, Biden's CHIPS Act. That was the largest grant to a single company. Intel is required, according to Tom Cotton, to be a responsible steward of American taxpayer dollars and comply with applicable security regulations. Tom Cotton wants answers, and he says he wants these answers from the board by August 15th. So we'll continue to follow this in the upcoming week. The questions are, did the board require Mr. Tan to divest from his positions in semiconductor firms linked to the Chinese military? Was the board aware of the Cadence subpoenas before hiring Mr. Tan? All very important questions. We'll follow it. Congressman, good to talk with you. Thanks so much. Pat Harrigan joining us this morning on all of that.